Inside the Birds is back. What's going on, everybody? Geoff Mosher, Adam Caplan here for our middle of the week Inside the Birds film review podcast. And yes, Eagles fans, we are going to review the film and give you this sourced intel on the Eagles' 27-24 loss to the Chargers. This has been a difficult loss for Eagles fans. I think because throughout the game, Adam, you could tell it was a winnable game. They were there. And look, I get it. It's one thing to lose, and it's frustrating to lose in similar fashion all the time. Just seeing the quarterback pick you apart and pick you apart and pick you apart. And I think there's some misconceptions out there that Jonathan Gannon's doing nothing to try to stop this and hasn't changed. And we'll talk about that. And that's completely wrong. People who are saying that. I actually, if you heard our Monday night show, which was abbreviated on the Fanatic, somebody called up and said he's doing nothing, and I kind of yelled and said, "No, you don't know what you're talking about. He's doing a lot of different
Definitely
things, just not working."
Yeah.
Well,
it's funny, right? So when we did the show Monday morning, I didn't have the information we got later in the afternoon. I was like, "Oh wow, they did disguise. Okay, it's interesting. Yeah. Okay, they now." I say that, and it didn't work very well, and there were some reasons for that.
Yep.
But you're absolutely right. They did, and there's been a philosophy change on defense. I don't know if it'll stick. You'd never know week to week what particularly this staff's going to do because they're brand new, and they're trying to figure things out. But we definitely have a lot of new information because when Geoff and I dropped the show Monday morning, we're just reacting to what we saw during the game the day before, and. Yeah, did they get burned on defense because they gave up too much space? Yes, obviously. But as you said, it wasn't as though that they didn't try to make some changes. He did. Gannon did. We'll get into that. And offensively, kind of what I thought when we did that show on Monday held true. But we learned some things which I was wrong on I was wrong on thinking one thing, but until you get information on what the tape looks like. It's why coaches hate reacting to games when they're interviewed by the media after the game because they don't have access to the tape. They just go up the sideline, and you don't have access to a replay, and you only have your mind,
Right.
So it was interesting because Geoff and I had said with Greg Cosell and Jason Avant, heading into the game, there's certain things we'd like to see in this game because we knew the Chargers had some issues on defense because two of their top three corners are out. We also knew how bad the Chargers' run defense was, no matter what Brandon Staley said. The run defense was not very good, and it wasn't in this game. Then defensively, how they match up, and we'll get into that. It's pretty fascinating.
We will. We had a great interview, by the way. I want to direct everybody to let them know. We had a fantastic interview with Avonte Maddox, the slot corner for the Philadelphia Eagles. It's already up on our YouTube channel. It's already podcasted. It's our ITB TV of the week. And it was a really charismatic and engaging interview. Avante's a really happy-go-lucky guy. We didn't just talk about that. Obviously, people know about his great relationship with Dallas Goedert. They're roommates. They do commercials together. We did talk about the defense. We did talk about his role. I think the one thing that stood out is I mean, safety as a rookie.
Yeah.
Outside corner last year, inside corner this year.
By the way, I just want to say one thing. You just said the safety. Go when you hear the show, this interview. That's why I want to jump in there. 2018, how he found out he was playing safety. I didn't know any of this stuff. I don't know if anyone else did. It's the craziest story. I don't want to give away everything. I just want the folks to hear this interview. It's like 20 minutes maybe, but the part about it was he gave us so much information, right? But the part about safety, playing safety, it's mind blowing. I mean, you couldn't make it up. In fact, Geoff, the reason why I brought it up to him is, Geoff, you remember that show? We were both wrong. We guessed, okay, who's playing safety this week for 23 McLeod? He tore his ACL. It was his ACL then back then?
Yeah, it was the ACL.
Right. So we didn't. We were all guessing. Billy Osborne was us, and we didn't get it. And then wait to hear what Avonte said. It was incredible. I'm sorry to jump in there, but I just
no. It was a great story. I had forgotten about that, so I'm glad you brought it up. And I thought what was very telltale was just kind of talking about the contract status, where he seemed to echo a sentiment of wanting to be with the Eagles, liking it here, wanting to stay. But he definitely said, and we followed up with him on it, that there really hasn't been he hasn't gotten any sense of any discussions being had, which is different than everybody else from his draft class. Jordan Mailata has already been extended. Josh Sweat has already been extended. Dallas Goedert has openly talked about, and so has Howie Roseman, about a contract extension, and nothing on Avonte Maddox, who might be like, if you were to write a list of players on Eagles defense who are performing above expectation, there may only be two, Javon Hargrave and Avonte Maddox. After that, you're either performing to your expectation or lower than your
well, Slay's had a good year, though. Slay's
I would say he's performing to his expectation.
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maddox is graded out very well. We know that's not a secret. All the metrics on him have been really good. He's had an injury history. I understand that, and that may play into why the Eagles have not extended him yet. Look, no doubt over the first 3 years he's missed time. It's been unfortunate. I won't call him injury prone. He's just had some bad luck with injury. The so-called friendly fire with Sendejo hit him, right? Didn't he unfortunately hit him? Was it the game at Minnesota some years ago where he got hurt, I think? I think Sendejo might have hit him accidentally. And another thing about this interview, which is amazing. We asked him about his injury, and he says he's playing this week. Now you hear how he says it and what he's had to go through. Right. And he kind of took us through what he's got to do to get ready for a game, and just really wide-ranging interview. He's obviously very smart. You can hear how he details his role. And by the way, and we're going to get into this when we get into who replaced him in the game. Now I know what he was talking about, because they put so much on him as a nickel corner. It's hard to replace him. It's in game. You better have someone who's experienced, because they're asking him to do so much. And there's another thing. I didn't realize how involved his role is, as a nickel corner. So that was really great.
Well, as we talked about, it's really the nickel corner in today's NFL who is the target on most RPOs. I mean, this is a guy, when you're nickel, and especially a zone nickel, you have run pass responsibility, just like a linebacker would, except you're lined up against that interior receiver that is the quickest outlet for an RPO, an inside slant, something like that. So he has huge responsibilities for when other teams are using RPOs, and I'm sure he's gotten a lot of practice about it, because the first 6 or 7 weeks, that's all the Eagles were doing. So but it's like you're saying, you have to be really smart, you have to be instinctive, you have to be a good tackler, which he is. And we know that the Eagles are kind of doing this dart throwing thing with a lot of nickel corners with Josiah Scott, and maybe who's the other nickel corner that they just recently traded for? Is that the guy from Denver?
Vincent, and he didn't play in the
Right. So we'll see if they're grooming a replacement because they think it's
fair
more
point.
fungible, or
I forgot about
they'll
that.
extend him. Yeah.
I can't imagine, knowing Howie Roseman's career here, guys who do well, he doesn't let guys walk. He just doesn't. Now Jordan Hicks is different. So here's what happened with Jordan Hicks. Jordan Hicks got a monster offer from the Cardinals, and I remember when they did it. When I got the breakdown, I'm like, "There's no way I would give him the steal. There's no way. He's a talented guy, but his injury history is significant. You can't do it.
Right.
You just can't. I didn't blame them for doing it. I remember they never made him an official offer. They actually, if I recall, this is 3 or 4 years ago, they had discussions with his agent, who now is not was Van McElroy, the former Raider safety, was his agent then. And Van got him a monster deal. Was it like $10 million a year? Some crazy number.
It was something very large. Yeah.
And I was like, he's a good player. He's not worth that.
So, right. So the funny thing is, at the beginning of this year, you were reporting how the Cardinals asked him to take a pay cut and
major
compete
pay
for
cut.
his job. He did. Wound up competing for his job, and I think he's actually played himself back into good graces again. What an ups and down kind of story his career is. So it's funny how things work out. Now, if you're him, you're like, wait a minute. Now I'm playing every snap. I'm good, and you made me cut my pay. So what a wacky business it is. But
I don't know. You could make it up. Like the guy was told this is what we're doing, I thought he was actually going to get traded. They gave his agents, as I understand it, permission to seek a trade. And there was some thought that it might be Eagles never wind up doing it. I don't even think they might have discussed it internally. I'm not sure, but I just know that there are a couple of people in the league who said it to me. Watch Hurts get traded for Hurts. Not for Hurts, for
Hicks.
And I was like, yeah, from from an Eagles standpoint, yeah, Hicks doesn't make very much money, but the Cardinals aren't taking on that type of money, and then they would wind up trading for Zach Ertz later. But of course, it's prorated because you're doing it around midseason. But nevertheless, when you look at the Eagles situation with Maddox, he's really rebounded. He definitely has. And it's great. We also talked about Jim Schwartz's defense compared to this one.
Yeah,
Jeff and I brought up a lot of stuff with him, and he took it all. He had some great intel, man, on what he's being asked to do. It's really fun.
absolutely great stuff. Also great 6 a.m. Thursday. Make sure you're checking out Q&A on the Inside the Birds platforms, YouTube, podcast. It'll be out there. Let me tell you, this will be a very educational and instructional Q&A because they're really breaking down some of the things they're seeing on defense.
Good.
And what's working, what's not working, what the idea and the concept behind certain things that you saw are and why they're not working. So that's what we do best here. That's what they do better than anybody I know. They talk it out, especially because one's a D-back and the other's a receiver. And that was really prominent. That kind of matchup really stood out in this game. So make sure you check out Q&A on the Inside the Birds platforms. Let's just quickly run through the transactions, Adam, before we get to anything. And of course,
interesting too. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, before we do that, we've been telling you guys to get the advantage over your sportsbook by downloading BetQL, the only app you'll need to make smart bets. Use their best bet computer model, which scans over 350,000 unique bets a year. That gives you the best bet recommendation for every game across all major sports and the reason why you should place the bet. And if you don't like the model, if you're a researcher, that's fine. BetQL respects that. They've got the necessary tools that you need, from sharp data, line movement, team summaries, lineup injury, breaking news, and even a leaderboards to track your success. So you just go to the App Store or the Google Play Store now, download BetQL, or go to the website try.betql.co. Enter the promo code ITB at checkout, and you'll get 25% off subscription offerings. And don't miss their sportsbook offers page that if you live in one of the eligible states, you can claim free offers upon signing up at one of the many sportsbooks listed. Don't miss out on the chance to beat your sportsbook this football season using BetQL. All right, let's get into the transactions. Obviously, the interesting one is you saw the cornerback Mac McCain was waived from the 53-man roster, and then they re-signed Craig James to the practice squad to replace Elijah Riley, a guy that they've been protecting for basically the whole season, and the Jets picked him up.
Well, here's what happened. So the Eagles practiced with the Jets for 2 days, and obviously they played him in the preseason, so they could go back. They lost Marcus May, their starting safety for the season, for his Achilles, unfortunately. He's on a contract year, and they didn't really have any depth at safety. He's going to have a chance to play. Actually ran into one of his agents at training camp. I remember it was just by chance, and I give the Jets credit. They obviously had some information. Maybe they went by the practice tape, but nevertheless, they brought him in. I mean, they're bringing him in. They signed him to their 53. The Eagles obviously wanted to keep him on the practice squad. They didn't have a spot for him on the 53 to use him. And Kevon Wallace only played special teams last week. He didn't play snap on defense.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah, very interesting. So couldn't they have protected Elijah Riley again, though? Or did they just
here's what they could have, but I think the way it works is the Jets offered I'm guessing that because protections come in Tuesday. I'll get this clarified for our next show. It's the first time I can remember this happening. That because the Eagles also, I believe the first time this season, they only protected 3 players.
Right.
And one of them was not Jordan Howard.
Which is interesting.
I don't know what to make of that. Howard obviously reverted back to the practice squad on Monday by rule. He has to. Right. I don't know. I didn't understand, but we'll get it clarified whether because you really cannot block. You would typically do what you just said. You would block the guy. You would protect the guy first on Tuesday. But I don't know that. I'm not sure if he signed the deal or agreed to a deal Tuesday morning or Monday afternoon. I don't know. But I remember getting the NFL's transactions on late Tuesday afternoon. I'm like, Elijah Riley, the Jets. And I checked the note. Yeah, they are going to sign him and probably play him at some point. Have to learn their defense, but they're very late there. But you have Hightower, Raven Clark, and Maiden, Jared Maiden, the safety, former UDFA, who was with it. They signed to the practice squad. They protected him. But, Hightower, again, who did actually dress for this last game, was protected.
So there's no reason in my mind, and we'll find out, because as of the time we're recording this, nothing's happened here. But there's no reason to cut Mac McCain or waive Mac McCain which opens up a spot on your 53-man roster if you're not going to fill that spot. And I have to think and assume, not just an assumption, that you're going to fill that spot with Jordan Howard, who you just did not protect on the practice squad. Now, why it didn't happen on Tuesday, I don't know. Maybe it needs to happen Wednesday. I don't know, but I would guess that it's going to happen today or sometime soon. That Jordan Howard,
I agree,
will take the 53, the 53rd spot that's open. That
was my first thought, is that this has got to be for Jordan Howard. And there was a quote by Steichen on Tuesday, Shane Steichen, Eagles OC, on Tuesday, just about working with Jordan Howard going forward, because he didn't want to talk about Sanders coming back. This is the last week for Sanders to be on IR. It'll be out. Well, he could stay on it, but he's eligible to come off it after this week. He just said he was looking forward to keep working with Howard. It was an innocuous quote, but I just thought it was okay. I don't know if he meant that okay, that means Jordan Howard's definitely going to be up this week. Well, he has to be, right? He was great. He look really good. Right. And they all of a sudden are morphed into this running team, which we'll get into whether we really think that's their identity going forward, or do they just morph into that because they felt they had to. But nevertheless, Jordan Howard is interesting because this is not really the guy that they cut him. Remember, they cut him. He didn't make the team. Right. Now he's so integral to what they've been doing lately, to their success. I mean, they scored 24 points. They bombed the Lions. Before that, they scored over 40 points, and he was pretty big in it. He was. I mean, he went from literally zero role on this team to now like the most important player on offense, who's not the quarterback. I a little strong, but I hear you. I mean, over the last 2 weeks, has he not been the most important player? No, he's been great. He's listen, they're not. I would argue on what you said. I would argue this game is not. They lost by 3, right? They scored 24 points. Yeah. I would argue that they don't score 20 points without Jordan Howard, because obviously they would have thrown it more, but they made a philosophical choice early in the game, which we're going to get into in a second, that this is the way they were going to go. And Jordan Howard, 4.8 yards per carry. And I understand the holes were big, but man, he's not looked this good in a long time. But quite frankly, this is the way he looked at training camp. People didn't want to believe me when I said that he outperformed Boston Scott. People thought I was high. I'm just telling you, he clearly was better than Boston Scott. Scott had a good camp, but Howard looked like he did in the spring when we'd heard he lost weight. And when he didn't make it, I'm like, all right, well, they know more than I do. Yeah. So, yeah. I think you're high right now, by the way. No, I'm just kidding. It's been years. No, I don't know. All right. So let's get it. As you just mentioned, Sanders, one more game left to serve with the injury. This one. Maddox, he told us he's going to play, so I'm sure he's, unless there's a turn for the worse, he'll play. Yeah. And the only other guy that you got to mention, and really, if you're an Eagles fan right now, you got to pray for Slay. I hope that he comes back from the hamstring, because if he doesn't play, you're looking at an outside corner tandem of Steven Nelson and I guess Zach McPherson, or maybe they go crazy and put somebody, I don't know, Andre Sachere plays the slot and they move Maddox out to outside, or I don't know. Well, here's the problem with Vontae's knee. He didn't say what type of knee injury it is. He basically, you'll hear, I don't want to give away everything here. He'll explain what he's dealing with, but he didn't say what type of knee injury it is. So we don't know what he's dealing with exactly. Yeah. But he just explained what he's dealing with. They've got, this is interesting. We've not been faced with this because they've been healthy at corner. They don't have experienced backup outside corner. They just don't. Nope. We talked about that going into the year of how shaky their depth was at corner, right? We talked about that. That's a depth real isn't numbers, folks. Depth does not having 10 guys in position. I can't tell you how many. We all get that wrong. Depth has nothing to do with how many guys you have. It's about how many guys you have you feel good about. You can have 4 guys at outside corner, and they're all good. You don't need anybody else. Yep. Having Maddox, Josiah Scott, McPherson, Kerry Vincent, Tay Gowan, McPherson who got cut. That's not good enough. None of these guys are outside corners.
That's
So
correct.
you got a problem.
Yeah.
That's the issue.
I recall getting ripped a month or two ago for saying the Eagles don't have as much defensive line depth as they've had in the past, and that could hurt them. Brandon Graham gets hurt. It's obviously hurt them.
It killed them.
It's killed them. And there's a big drop off when they're in run defense when Hassan Ridgeway and what's his face have to come and Milton Williams come in.
Yeah.
And now you're seeing a little bit of Marlon Tuipulotu come in for 3 or 4 snaps, and of course, even on the edges, they're just not as fierce on the edges anymore. Ryan Kerrigan not doing much, and Josh Sweat sporadic, but that's okay. It's fine. Let's talk about the game. We'll get our sourced intel and tape review. I want to remind everybody to download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code ITB. Bet $1 on either team to score, and you can win $100. Either NFL team to score, and you can win $100 in free bets. If the team scores, you score with promo code ITB this week at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. All right, let's start off with the offense. Tell me what what we already know is that Sirianni sort of tried to come out passing again, shotgun again. After the first run was an under center run, didn't really work, and then he said, "Okay, we're going to go back to the Lions method and just ram the ball down their throats after that." What kind of observations were there on that?
It was kind of like we said on Monday's show, but let me just give it a little bit better detail. I'm positive of this. We all watched it. Hurts came out very inaccurate, and he said, "We're done with this." That's the only thing I'm sure of. I felt it during the game. I asked people who I respect around the league who watch the Eagles, and that's good coaching. By the way, that's really good coaching. Why is it good coaching? This is, I talked about this on our show Monday morning, where this is where Andy Reid would fail. That would be inaccurate. He'd still keep throwing the football. And I hated when he said this because it was so ridiculous. It's like a pitcher in baseball. You just got to keep throwing it and it'll finally get it right. It was just ridiculous when he said it years ago. I never agree with it then. I don't agree with it 10 years later, whatever the hell it was. Might have been 15 years later. Who the hell knows? But it would have to be. He hasn't been here. It has to be over 10 years. But when Andy said that, I just thought it was so absurd. Because when your quarterback is really inaccurate, you need to help him. You have the option to run the football. It's on defense. You've got all sorts of options: man versus zone, press versus off, different types of zones that you can play: 2, 4, 6, 5, whatever you want to do. Cover 4, cover 5, cover 6, whatever you want to do. It's either you run or you pass it. That's the only option you have. Now you obviously have within that how you run it, how you pass it. But I thought Sirianni did a really smart thing. And then the second series, which was 3 and out, it hurts. He missed a pass to Watkins. It looked bad the first 2 series. And then I love that the only complaint I would have when they ran it down the Lions, the Chargers' throats. How about a play action and a throw? But he didn't because they ran the ball so well. But the problem is that after Jordan Howard's field goal, touchdown, I just felt like their run game was so dominant and they ran it down their throat so well. Let's see some play action, and he just kept running it. Would have liked to have seen that, but they got the play action going in the second half. That's when they started marrying the pass game to the run game really, really well. It's called the connective tissue, which a coach gave me when I was talking to a coach from another team about it on Tuesday. He goes, "Yeah, eventually, if you really run the ball well, you're going to match your pass game to your run game really well. It's connective tissue. They're matched together." Mm-hmm. And I thought that in the third quarter, Sirianni did a phenomenal job with it. And then Hurts, just like he did in the Arizona game last year, boy, he threw the timing stuff to 6 Smith, Devontae Smith, was phenomenal. That was just like that game against Arizona last year, where it was timing throws, and Smith's ability to get in and out of his breaks was just. You cannot, if you're a defender, match what he does. When he's on his A game, Devontae Smith, I don't know how you match it. You just can't. And he had it going on in that second and third quarters. My goodness gracious, he was dominant.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no doubt about it. How much of this is sustainable? Have you talked to anybody about that? I mean,
Yes.
the Broncos
Yes.
have the 6th best rushing defense in the NFL. So, do we expect the Eagles are going to run 40 times against the Broncos and
No,
just ram it
no.
down their throats?
Did you see what the Broncos did to the Cowboys? We'll talk about that on Friday show. They absolutely. I could not believe what the Broncos did to the Cowboys. It just was in a weekend of unbelievable upsets in the National Football League like we've never seen.
Yeah.
So many good teams lost at home, lost to lesser teams, whatever the case may be. Denver was one of them. I'm still like can't believe it. I cannot believe that Denver smacked. They were up 30-0 against Dallas. But I would say that when you see Denver and their defense, they're down 5 inside linebackers, but the front's really good. They're very disciplined. Vic Fangio runs a what we call an execution style defense. They don't. They blitz. They'll blitz. They disguise, but they're not a heavy blitz team. It's all about some deception, zone drops. We're going to take away your passing lanes. He does a good job. No, you asked a very fair question. I just don't think it's sustainable. In fact, I know it's not sustainable, but I just respect the growth of Sirianni as a coach. And I mentioned this on our Monday morning show. He told the sideline reporter, Evan Washburn, that they're just going to go with what's going to take to win. That means running the football. That's good coaching. Like that is, I don't like it long term. I'm a pass game guy, but you know what? It worked, and he kept doing it, and it worked. But you got to score when you're in the red zone, though.
Right.
Score.
We will get into the Denver matchups more on Friday, but I just want to make sure I heard you correctly. Did you say the Broncos are down 5 inside linebackers?
Yes.
How is that possible?
That's why they made the trade. They made the trade with the Rams for Young. He's a inside linebacker.
Right.
And they're running, although obviously Staley's now gone from there. He's the head coach of the Chargers. They're still running a 34 on Raheem Morris. And they had an extra inside linebacker, so they had to do it. They've lost 5 ILBs. And this is yet another team that's had some odd stuff going on with pectoral injuries, several torn pectoral muscles. We'll get into this Friday. It's really, I have all their intel, their injury stuff. It's ridiculous what they've gone through. Yet they have a winning record now.
Yeah,
but it's interesting what the Eagles did this game. I got to tell you, I thought Sirianni really did a good job there.
Yeah, and just in studying the film and talking to people, we don't have a whole lot to give on run design. I mentioned this Monday in our Monday podcast. There's not a whole lot to their running game as far as trying to outwit you or outflank you even to the edges with pulling and try. They literally just. There was one point where they put 3 tight ends in, right? Tyree Jackson.
A lot of it. Yes.
A lot of it. And they just ran like down the throats of the I mean, they're not doing anything overly exotic. They're just running the ball right at you.
Right.
Which is
when I say a lot, right. I just want to say when I say a lot, I mean, I'm not talking Tyree Jackson to play 50 snaps. He played 14.
Right.
But he was there to block. I got it. We mentioned this before he got hurt. The first thing for folks, if you're new to our show, what Geoff and I had said during training camp is that we had heard for a guy who never played tight end in his life, he was not a bad blocker, though he's lanky and he needs to fill out physically. He had a good attitude towards it. He was sort of nosy is the term. And they would not have put him out there to block. They wouldn't even dress him. There's no reason to dress him unless you feel like he can do it. Because you could just go jumbo and go with a 6 offensive linemen. I know Matt Pryor's with Indy. They don't have him to use. But they could have gone an extra lineman, and they didn't do that, which is something I didn't know. There's no way we would have known that. I guess, and it turned out to be correct, that I said he'll take the Arthego-Whiteside job of blocking. I was half joking because no one told me that. I just used logic, and he did, and he did a good job.
Unbelievable. A star was born. No,
but it's a great story, man.
It's good. I look forward to him catching his first pass. I think it's going to be fun when he gets out there and gets.
Man, he's such a good dude. We had him on in May with me in NFL Radio with I forget who I was hosting with, and he was just I love hearing his story and how he said, look, one work in, and I want to try something different. I want to play in this league. It means a lot to him. And he was explaining how he had to learn, and it's been so long, I forget how he had to learn how to play tight end, but
Right.
The techniques and all this, and then he comes to Philly, and I got to give Jason Michael credit, their tight ends coach. This is a project. Like, this makes coaches' careers. I don't know I don't know where this guy's going to go. This Jason Michael, but Jack Stoll has been a great find for them as well as an undrafted free agent.
Yeah.
Like, this is and obviously give their scouting staff credit, but this is pretty cool. I know for most fans, like, who cares about this stuff? But this is very important for player development.
Absolutely. All right, before we finish up here on the offense, I don't understand especially with as successful as the offense has been running the ball the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
There's like a faction of people who think that Kenneth Gainwell is not seeing the ball enough, and like, how come they're not getting Kenny Gainwell involved, and how come? And I think that there's this natural greediness inherent in all sports.
I'm part of it. I'm sorry. I'm part of it.
Let me just give my side of the story here. All right. This kid is a rookie who was picked in the 5th round, right? He's like 200 pounds on a good day.
Sure.
He did not play at all last year. He opted out of his senior year. And then in his junior year, he was not a high volume runner either. He was a runner and a pass catcher in that Memphis offense. So if the coach's plans are, he's our number 3 running back, he's our change up, he's our scat, whatever you want to call it, pass, and we're not going to change that. We have 2 other guys who can move the ball in Boston and Jordan, and we're not going to accelerate his role just to accelerate it. We have a plan for him to develop him that way. I think that that's smart, because you start remember Miles Sanders is a rookie. He was a 2nd-round pick, so of course you're going to get him on the field as early as you can, and he did all right, but then he started putting the ball on the ground, so Doug had to sit him for a while and play more Jordan Howard and more, I guess, I forget who, Wendell Smollett, or I forget who they had at the time. But the point was, like, when a guy does what he does well, it's because you have a plan and a process is working. You don't have to change it just to say you change it. It'd be one thing if the running game stunk and wasn't moving the chains, and you're like, all right, this guy can move the chains. But what they're doing with him, in my opinion, is developing him nicely, and there's no reason to have to give the workload more just to say you're doing it more. Does that make sense?
That's fair, yeah. But it's funny you mentioned him. I wasn't planning on talking about him, but he did play early in the game on pass routes. He just didn't get the ball. But no, actually, we need to talk about Hurts. It's my fault. We need to talk about him. So what happened early on was he wasn't getting his feet set. He wasn't seeing that he was off on his timing, on his hitches. As it explained to me, there's a rhythm to playing quarterback. It's 1, 2, 3, hitch out. It's just without, it's hard for me to explain, but I talked to a couple coaches about it, just on how it works. And, I just asked some people, hey, this is what I was told it looked like. How does this work? And then I was able on Tuesday to watch the tape and, ask some people who would know, like, what should have happened. So I think with Hurts is this, and we saw this, really, his timing was really good in the 3rd quarter. Like that, again, it would look like the Arizona game. But on the Goddard throw, he's a half a second late. That was a clear touchdown. He's just late.
Okay.
And in fact, 98, I have to look up 98 for the Chargers was about to hit him. And that's why the ball came out awkwardly. Like, it was just a hair off. Linval Joseph, because he was late. He needed to throw with a sense of timing, and he did not. And had he done that, that ball's a touchdown. Now, it was actually close, but because he had some juice on it, but he couldn't step on it naturally because he was late on the throw. He was just not clean mechanically in the first half,
right?
And it just where he was, his timing was really good. Now, the funny thing was that awesome throw that he made to Goddard, where he threw across his body, where it got across the field. The ball was not supposed to go there; it was supposed to go somewhere else, and he was late. Gainwell was actually open on a crosser initially, but he would have had to get it out quickly. But he spins and he gets out and he makes a tough throw, man. I get no one was covering him, but he threw across his body accurately. It's a hard pass to make, but that was not the design of the play. But you know what? Hey, he got flushed and he made the throw, but he got himself together. He calmed down in the 3rd quarter. I think the run game obviously really helped him. And that's the marriage of the run game, the pass game. What was that term that guy gave me? Connective tissue. Yeah.
I like that. Connective tissue. Yeah.
I love that. And I don't have, I wish I would have like taped the phone call and I would just transcribed it.
Right.
But he said there's just a way that you calm quarterbacks down is you don't have to run the ball 50 times. You just want to have enough run where you're keeping the defense honest. The quarterback feels comfortable. He doesn't feel like there's so much pressure on him to throw the ball all the time. And I think that's what helped. Eventually, it calmed Hurts down, and he had it going on. I know his overall numbers aren't great. That's not my point. The point is, when it mattered most, this is what I said on Monday's show. I think you would agree with me. When it mattered most, he kept the team in it. Look, it was not pretty in the first quarter. I mean, particularly when he came out, he was off. And Sirianni bailed him out by running it, and they ran the hell out of it, and they double teams were great. Everything worked. And then the third quarter, when it mattered, he and Smith hooked up, and it was beautiful.
Yeah, no, look, I agree with you. Here's what I'm starting to feel about Jalen Hurts, Adam. The one thing that I like about this kid a lot, that has nothing to do with leadership and poise, all the other stuff that is obvious, is that even when he is not doing the right things, when he's not accurate, when he's a little late, when he's dropping his hands, fleeing the pocket early, dropping his eyes. I'm sorry. Yeah. No, I mean on the deep throws when he drops the hands for the windup. Sometimes, is what I mean.
Yeah.
He does not throw inaccurately to the point where it's so wild, like nobody can make a play. He really is, even with the ball placement, when he struggles with that, it's not that far off. I really am starting to believe that this kid can become a good starter in the NFL. However, I don't know how long it's going to take. In other words, it might be in 2023 or 2020, late 2022, that everything starts to come together. And by that point, he might be on a different team.
Exactly.
That's the impatience of it, or the lack of seeing that through. That's an Eagles situation more than a Jalen Hurts situation. I said at the beginning of the year, I'm not sure it's really fair to give a guy 1 year when he doesn't have experience, but that's the situation the team has put itself in from everything it's gone through in the last 18 months. So we'll see what happens, but I do believe in the right support system around him, the right coaching, that the kid could probably play in this league. He's got enough.
Oh, he could play in the league, but you have
to be good. I mean, I think he can be good. He can be groomed.
Is he all right? Let me throw this back because I had this.
I don't mean like top 5 good, but I mean you don't have to be top 5 to win a title.
All right, I had this argument with a friend of mine, and we were talking about this as the season ticket holder, and he'd asked me, "What do you think Hurts?" And I told him, I said, "This is kind of where he's at." He said, "Who do you think he could be as a quarterback?" And I said, this guy that I'm about to mention is a solid. He's not great. He's I don't want to say the guy's controversial. I'll get into who he is in a second, but I believe you could win with Kirk Cousins. I really do. I think there's venom towards Kirk Cousins. There's a lot of people who think he's not very good. The guy's numbers are really good this season. Like, he doesn't have the best offensive line in the world. It's better than it has been. He obviously is Dalvin Cook, who gets hurt a lot, but he's very gifted.
Yeah.
They're really a 2-receiver offense. Your tight end Conklin's okay. They don't get a lot out of their tight end position. Their defense is very good. He'll put up numbers. So to answer your question, Kirk Cousins to me is a top 12 to 14 quarterback. I believe.
I don't think that's a bad comparison, actually.
My friend didn't. He doesn't follow Kirk Cousins as closely as I do.
Okay.
But I know Kirk Cousins is a durable, winning type quarterback. I think with the right coaching, as you said. Well, it's not right. It's not that he's not getting good coaching here. It's just the right patience, I should say. But mechanically, he needs so much work. So much work. It's a full off season. If you believe in him, you devote your whole off season to his mechanics. You had that note. Remind everyone that you had a great note back in like June or May. I had not heard this before. I thought it was phenomenal. What was it again?
Well, it was that windup again that we talk about, that when he wants to throw deep, it's not a flick of the wrist like you'll get from a Josh Allen or a Joe Flacco, Michael, a lot of the strong arm quarterbacks. It's okay. And with Drew Brees, Drew Brees did not have a strong arm, right?
But he had to giddy up to get it out there. Yeah.
Neither did Phillip Rivers, but they had that timing and anticipation and pinpoint accuracy. So he doesn't have that right now. So, and then when he does want to go deep, it does take a little bit more of a wind up because he has to get all of his body into it, as opposed to guys who can just fling it. I mean, that's just the reality of the situation. So if I were a team like the Steelers, who are at the end of Ben Roethlisberger and going to be looking for a quarterback, and you never know what you're going to get in the draft, or if you'll be able to draft high enough. If I'm the Ravens, if I'm Seattle and I'm moving on from Russ, like if I'm a good organization that has
Ravens.
Well, just in case Lamar gets hurt, I mean.
You could bring him as your backup. Yeah.
Plus, yeah. Plus, the Ravens haven't signed Lamar Jackson to a deal.
No, not
I'm
yet.
sure
He
it'll
ain't
get
going
done.
anywhere.
I'm trying to think of other organizations that have such a great track record of building a team around. Like when Russ won the Super Bowl, he was not the Russell Wilson that he is now. He was a very good quarterback, but he was on his way up. He was a work in progress. But they built such a great defense and running game around him, right? That I think a team like that could maybe be able to take this kid and put a great team around him as they grew him up, and perhaps be able to go deep in the playoffs and win something. I don't know. You can never predict that stuff, but Ryan Tannehill had to go somewhere else, and you can see that the Titans have done a very good job of drafting and developing talent.
Great run game, though.
And coaching, right? Great run game, very good defense. And I think, unfortunately, it's just not going to happen, in my opinion, here with the Eagles, because not because of Jalen, but because of everything around the situation. We want a big name. We need this. We want the quarterback. We've got all those first round picks on offense. We're built to win. I just don't. It's a whole. It's more contextual to me than just about Jalen Hurts.
That's fair. Yeah. I by the way, I agree with everything you said. I mean, I still want to see this out. They need to play him out here. He needs to play every game.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, the better tape he gets, the more value he's going to get. Now, and if he starts going on a roll the final 4 or 5 games, you go, oh my gosh, they cannot move away from him. He's so good.
Right.
You never know. Look, you like. Here's another one. I'm glad you brought this up because I want to bring up Justin Fields very quickly here. Justin Fields had one of the worst games I've ever seen in my life against Cleveland.
Yeah.
I was so bad. I heard about it. I wanted to watch the coaching tape. And we had Greg Cosell on our fantasy show on Sirius XM. I remember Greg saying they made it so remedial for him and he still couldn't complete a pass. He was so bad against Cleveland. One of the worst games we ever seen by a quarterback. He looked so good against Pittsburgh Monday night. Monday night. He was so good, and he's got a beautiful stroke, man. He throws it really well. But the problem is he had issues processing. Mm-hmm. But the more you play, and he's a hard worker, everything I've heard, he's a great kid, and it means a lot. He's being coached really, really well. Mm-hmm. Well, now you're starting to see him progress. Now, I get it. Hurts is, you said this weeks ago, and you're absolutely right. Hurts is not a first-round pick. The Bears traded up for Fields. Mm-hmm. But the point is this. This is my point. Just you got to let the kid play.
Yeah.
Just let him play, see what happens, and if he starts playing more consistent football from the passing standpoint, then give him more volume in the pass game.
Yep.
I thought Sirianni made a major tactical error, and that it was the second game of the year. He had a great first game. And we've all said it. Cosell said it a million times. Avant just said it, or he said it more than once. I remember him saying, easy throws. He executed. So the next week, let's bombs away. Well, let's throw a lot. Well, you gave him too much too soon. That was not good coaching. Let him work up to that. Now you're taking the ball out of his hands and you're running it, and it's working.
I agree. And we'll see how these next 8 games go. Is it 8? They are now. Let's see. 8 games. Yeah. We will see. All right, let us go into the defense. That's everything on offense, right?
Yeah, I got nothing. Okay. Goddard, by the way, look. I wanted to see what I had heard just to see if I was right. He looks. I know people say he's not Kelsey. I get that. He just move. You don't see big guys like this move as well as he does. He's something else. I don't know that he's not going anywhere. They'll franchise him, if they don't get an extension done. But this kid has got some special ability. Again, because he and Hurts aren't there, where Hurts and Smith have got it going on. There's no question. Mm-hmm. Hurts has they've got to get together here. If they ever do, Goddard's going to be a stud here. He just will.
I'm with you on that. By the way, just because there's a lot of bloggers out there, you are surmising that they would franchise him.
I would bet the house he's not.
You would bet the house, but that is not an official. I'm just making sure you say that that's not an official report before somebody.
No, it's just
Adam Caplan says.
Opinion. Right. It's just he's not. He'll either be extended, tagged, and so and he'll play in 1 year or he'll be traded off that. There's zero chance he walks.
I would agree.
Just a matter of how you want to do it. This kid's way too gifted. They've got it right. They nailed this pick. The kid's a stud talent. He just needs to get the ball more. That he doesn't control that. The coaches do, and so does the quarterback.
All right, let's remind everybody to check out our friends at phlsportsnation.com, enhancing the fans' experience with their coverage of all Philadelphia sports teams for the fan, by the fan. That's their motto. So check out all that great fan content at phlsportsnation.com, and of course on Twitter at phlsportsnation. And we'll pause real quick for another word from our great friends, including our buddies at Sky Motor Cars. And if you do stop in the Sky Motor Cars out there in Westchester, PA, make sure you tell them Adam and Geoff sent you. You'll get a great deal. All right, what would happen if you sent Jonathan Gannon to Sky Motor Cars? Would you get a great deal if you told him Jonathan Gannon?
Oh, he would.
Right. Well, I know, but I'm just saying right now he's like public enemy number one.
I know. Listen, I still feel, and what we're going to get at in a second. By the way, we want to thank Brett Schulter from Sky Motor Cars to help with the getting Avanti on ITV and our business manager Josh Weinfeld also for those guys making it happen to get Avanti on. Avanti's got to deal with Sky, and he talks about the cars that he has. By the way, it's pretty cool, and really special thanks to Brett for making that happen and Josh, because this interview was so good. I was just after we were done, I was like, I learned so much, and I appreciate the comments we got from. Some people have listened, but if you haven't listened to that interview, you got to listen to it. It's such an education on football.
Definitely. So listen, if you heard our show on the Fanatic Monday night, you know how I feel about this situation. I feel like Jonathan Gannon could be doing a better job, but he is trying to do things differently. I don't believe he has the right personnel for the scheme he's running. I don't believe even if he ran a scheme similar to Schwartz's scheme, it would be much better. And I wrote a column on InsideTheBirds.com. Please check it out because I don't think people realize this, but from a points per game standpoint, the Eagles allowed 26 points per game last year under Schwartz. They're allowing 24 points per game this year, a little bit higher, 24.5 this year. So you can call that actual slight improvement. Doesn't matter. It was bad last year. It's bad this year. Both coaches have tried different things. And to me, that's a talent and a personnel issue. The things he's trying to do, mostly, Adam, mostly. I know you're shaking your head over there.
Yeah. Schematic too. Yeah.
Well, how could it be schematic when there's so many different schemes? Like what?
No, but he's okay. So I get what you mean. We know although we'll get into TJ Edwards, he's playing very well. Sure. I just feel like he's and I don't know this. This is more of just as an observer of this football team. I think he's either Sirianni's getting in his ear and said, "Hey, we got to be more aggressive. You got to change it up." I don't know. It was good to see them blitz, but the thing is, blitzing just for the hell of it or just blitzing doesn't work. You need to do something behind it. If it's not getting there, and he's not, whatever disguise he's using is not working. I understand he's trying. There's no doubt. This game we had learned Monday afternoon. I think we had heard that before we really dug into sources around the league who watch Eagle State. Hey, what did it really look like? But you've got to disguise. If you're you can blitz, but it's what you do behind it, A, and B, when you mix your coverages up, what are you actually doing? And for Herbert to have, and I like that. Here's the thing about Gannon. He didn't throw a bunch of water on the media's questions like Jim Schwartz would do when they get on him about certain things. Oh, when you know what happens when you try to get turnovers, you can't do it. Whatever phrases he used to use, which there were a lot of people thought was just nonsense, whatever his response was. Where Gannon took the questions were very well thought by the media, really fair, I thought. And he answered honestly. He talked about what he was trying to do, what he could do. When you're trying to change, when you're trying to give the quarterback stuff, he's, hey, I could do this or I could do that. But the fact of the matter is, when a quarterback is getting the ball out this quickly, you have to adjust. You can't, if you're going to play man off, they play more man coverage than they have all season, and it's not working, you got to press. And you just can't give quick releases like that on a three-step and a hitch and not do anything about it. You can't.
So
I don't.
I agree, but what I've learned is that when that scheme and coverage and blitz, non-blitz, those are type of things that are directly um, under the jurisdiction of the defensive coordinator, right? In talking with especially Q&A and some others about this,
Yeah.
When a corner is going to play off or up or certain leverage or technique, a lot of times that is the cornerback's decision, the defensive back's decision, I should say, based on that defensive back's comfort within that play call. And so if a guy, if Steven, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. If Steven Nelson,
no, I should say I was going to get to that.
Playing 10 or 11 yards off, then that's not Jonathan Gannon saying play 10 or 11. That's where he feels comfortable with. And that makes sense because we know Steven Nelson is not the fastest guy in the world. And he probably looks at Guyton as someone who can beat him if he doesn't redirect him well enough. And if you're afraid to get beat off the line of scrimmage, which everybody says this defense plays scared defense. And I think that that's fair. I think the coordinator for a while was afraid to dial up blitzes. And I think he's got personnel who's afraid to get up in your face. And that's the part I say is that's not always on the defensive coordinator for guys.
That's true. You're actually right about that. From a whatever their responsibilities are. And obviously Gannon believes that. Well, we knew this with Steven Nelson coming in. He's a certain type of corner. He's a very physical, smart, tough guy. Doesn't run very well. It's a reason why he signed for the contract that he did, because it wasn't like he signed in August. You know, when you have to take what you can get. This guy's only 28 years old. You know, he's being paid a lot of money by the Steelers. He's played good football before, but there's an issue with his lack of foot speed. So, okay. So from a defensive coordinator standpoint, you feel like you have to play him a certain way. They're playing a lot of single high safety. Not a secret. It's out there. They played a little press in this game, not very much. But the fact of the matter is, if you're going to play a lot of off coverage, you got to figure out a way to help your defense get off the field.
Yeah,
and that's a problem, and that's why I was saying earlier that either Sirianni got in his ear and said, "Hey, man, you got to change things up." I don't know, so I'm just guessing. But
I'm sure they did. Yeah, he said it. Right.
But I don't know what he told him, and I don't. You know, obviously Sirianni's not going to explain exactly what he told him.
Right.
But the fact of the matter is, you know, you could say he's coaching to the limitations of his personnel. I mean, I know we use that phrase a lot in our show, but not doing anything to disrupt the quarterback's timing was ridiculous. It's just the fact that they only lost by 3 points is almost a miracle of itself. With this stuff, you know, they had a couple of the red zone stops, great, but they got to do something else. You can't let the quarterback just go off like this with these short area throws. And the other thing is, actually, I need to mention this because this has been 3 people told me this. I'm taking the one thing that one guy gave. Pre-snap indicators are exactly what Herbert thought he'd get in off coverage. He won before the snap. Philly did not adjust. That's a fact.
Right. So one other thing I got from talking with some personnel people, a couple, is that, you know, a lot of times when you talk about disguise, deception, there's 2 different ways you can do it. There's 2 different groups who you can do that with, right? Normally, what we've talked about, and we saw a lot of it at training camp, is your safeties, your nickel, and your linebackers, right? You're talking about taking those guys and either playing them real up on the line of scrimmage like they're going to blitz, and then at the last second dropping them back into a coverage, or whether it's a man or a zone, right? And then the secondary to that, disguise and deception can come in what you're doing with your defensive line. You know, you can move guys around, you can twist, you can stunt, and much like what we talked about with cornerbacks, some of that leverage and technique is on them. A lot of what they're taught and how they're going to play certain play calls is on the position coaches, right? Tracy Rocker's in charge of the defensive line. Nick Rallis is in charge of the linebackers. Denard Wilson's in charge of cornerbacks and safeties. And it's been pointed out to me that a couple of these guys who are position coaches are either doing it for the first time, like a Rallis, who was only an assistant position coach with the Vikings, and a guy like Tracy Rocker, who was coaching college forever, but has never coached in the NFL. That it's
he has. He actually coached with Gannon with the Titans.
Rocker? Oh, that's right. That's right. I forgot.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, no problem.
Most of his experience is college, if I'm not
Yes,
mistaken.
100%.
Right.
Yep. Yep.
But either way, you're not dealing with a very, very experienced staff, and it's
True.
fair, I was told, to say, what are the position coaches do? It's not like they just stand there on game day and reinforce Monday through Friday's principles. They're supposed to be telling them where the matchups are, what they should be doing, and how they can be fooling the defense. Like, even if you're in a zone, it doesn't mean you can't tell the linebacker to do a little bit of this, go pretend like you're going to blitz and come back. And so you're not seeing that. And again, the dart goes right to Jonathan Gannon, but he's got a staff who's supposed to be helping him with these things.
All right.
And if you're not seeing it, they got to be under the gun too.
Off of what you just said, I didn't know you were going to talk about this. So I just want to throw this back at you. Is this a issue with communication, you think, with his coaches to the players, his assistants?
That's a good point. I asked that just in some of the people I spoke to, and they said, you'd have to be there to know. I mean, it's hard to know.
Right. It's just, I hear what you're saying, and I have a better understanding of what Gannon's trying to do, and I understand this is a work in progress. Fans are up in arms. We know it. It's, as Geoff and I have said, we hate seeing bad football, but some of it is a little bit more understandable as we gather information here. But something's got to happen to make these quarterbacks earn it. When three people tell me that in their own way, and then the one guy gave me very strong stuff, which I wrote down about pre-snap indicators. Herbert is a really good quarterback. Okay, I understand against New England. Now, New England didn't give any pre-snap indicators. They disguised so well. He had no idea. He struggled in 2 games. I just don't understand. I get what you're saying. It's very high level stuff you're talking about. It's all good. I just it's all fine, but he's got to do something else, because this can't happen. You can't. This is not the way you can't win. You just can't win like this. It's just something wrong here with what you're talking about. Maybe it's communication. And then the other thing is, as we go through this, lack of pass rush. Now they defeated it because they went with quick release, get it out of his hands, 3 and hitch, out. Okay. This is where they could have pressed. They didn't. Okay, so maybe this is something Gannon will learn. And then linebackers, TJ Edwards is really playing well. He's diagnoses, very few mental errors. I totally see why he's playing a lot. He's their best linebacker right now. He's earned it. He's been a great story of development. And now, is he? If you're only playing 2 linebackers, if you're a playoff team, you want him being one of your 2 linebackers. I don't know yet, but where they're at now, he's doing a good job. And Davion Taylor, I never thought he'd make it, and we'll see if he does. He's doing better. Not as many errors. He's not killing them like he was before in coverage. Some maybe on him, but it's always hard to tell. Unless I don't know these coaches. I don't know who's. I just was told that from the tape study. He's not making as many mental errors. He is getting better.
Well, that's always good. I mean, he had only up to go.
Yeah, I get it.
Where it's at.
Yeah.
I worry. We'll talk about it more Friday.
Sure.
I kind of worry about the experience that the Broncos have on their coaching staff, both offensively and defensively. Obviously, with Vic Fangio and what he's going to try to do, and then of course Pat Shurmur. I mean, this guy was with Andy for a long time, so he knows what it's like to have those linebackers out there who are very one-dimensional. And at some point, the TJ Edwards experiment is going to hurt them a little, because at some point you become what you are, right? And he's such a good downhill linebacker. He's so smart. He's so instinctive. And at some point, Pat Shurmur's like, I'm going to force this guy to cover. I'm going to flood his zone. I'm going to have Jerry Jeudy run crossers with
Javonte Williams,
with Tim Patrick. They're going to do something. Yeah, with Javonte, right? And they're going to do something.
He's no offense, Austin Eckler is a nice player, and I get it that they're locked into Melvin Gordon's contract. He's making $4.5 million this season. They fully guaranteed his second year, which was a mistake when they did his contract last year. But okay, he has to play. They're sharing the ball with this. Javonte Williams is really talented. That's more for Friday's show, but
right.
Edwards, look, we're just where we are. We're just going to take it where he is. I get you. You always say in our show, these guys usually regress to the mean of what they really are, but he hasn't done that right now. He's playing well. He's playing a lot more than I thought he would. But then again, who else do they have? Well, Singleton obviously is not going to play as much as he used to. That decision was made weeks ago. Then corner DB wise, we talked about it. Just we don't know whose decision it was. I know you were trying to explain based on your sourcing on this. Like, okay, some of this was on the DBs based on what they're comfortable with and whatever the responsibilities are. Okay, but it didn't work, and it's got to change because I understand Teddy Bridgewater is who he is as a quarterback, but he's a veteran. He's a smart guy. He knows where to go. And boy, the Broncos are super deep at wide receiver. Jerry Jeudy's back with his high ankle.
Yep.
One of my favorite receivers, Tim Patrick's having a nice year. He's a free agent, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got
Cortland Sutton.
Oh, he's a stud who's come back really well from his injury. And
and of course the tight end is no picnic either. No
Fant. Yeah, Fant's on the COVID list, but the other tight ends, Albert O's back from his knee injury.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see if Fant comes back this week, but they're loaded on offense, man. They did some number on the Dallas defense, so
no doubt about it.
They're gonna have to make some changes here. I know it's hard for Gannon. He's the D coordinator; it's his responsibility. But as Geoff said, and he's definitely right. We're not trying to cover for him. We're just telling you what we're told. Okay. I'm not absolving Gannon at all. He's not done a good enough job, but there are reasons for it. 75% of it's him. The rest is either on personnel, lack of communication, whatever the hell you want to call it.
No doubt about it. All right, last thing on the defense. Are we sensing – it's weird because Anthony Harris came back, and I don't know if I forget how many snaps he played. I think he played a decent number of snaps, but so did Marcus.
90%. Yeah, no. Yeah. Here's what happened. Oh, yeah, my bad. Epps, because here's what happened. So when Maddox got hurt in the first quarter, and it plays to what Avante told us on ITB TV, and I didn't know that until he actually said it, and now it makes more sense because I was trying to figure out why the hell was Epps playing slot.
Well, first it was Sasha Ray who came in.
Sasha Ray, I'm sorry. Sasha Ray first.
Right.
Then Epps did. McPherson played.
For Slay,
yeah.
right,
for Slay, and Epps had to play slot, nickel, whatever slot, and it was, I think what happened was, it's just whatever Gannon felt comfortable with guys he felt guys could pick up. Epps then, obviously took over. No, but Harris played 90% of snaps, and he played 62.
Yeah, but and then so he played 90% of the snaps, and then
but he might have moved around a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah, Epps still played about. I have
to
remember what it
26. Was. He played 26 of the 68.
Yeah. I thought he's been playing well. I wonder. I look at Anthony Harris as just a guy who's out there, and
I don't know. I haven't really.
Epps has a little more athleticism, I think, from what.
Yeah, he's a nice. He's been a nice story. He's not perfect.
Right.
He definitely. Let's put it this way with Epps. He's definitely shown he can play in this league. It's how much you want to use him. How do you want to use him? And this particular game, his role, he played 2 or 3 different roles this game, whenever he was in, probably 2 roles because of Maddox's injury. And then McPherson had to play. He had to play a lot. He really had not played this season until this game because they had to. And they really should have signed a veteran off the street. I don't know who's out there, but they probably should have done it. To give them 20 snaps if they ever needed an outside corner because they just don't have anyone. Who's able to do that right now?
No doubt about it. All right, that has wrapped it up. We have that was a good hour and an hour plus on the film breakdown. Yeah, good stuff there. So we could have probably talked for 2 hours more.
Yeah, sorry for rambling. I felt I have all these notes from.
I thought I was the rambling one. That's okay.
Your stuff was excellent. We I try not to bash coaches, but I get frustrated as the fans do because we have to watch this stuff and talk about it. The thing that I just want to be fair and understand here. I know fans don't like hearing this, but it's the truth. More coaches I talk to, it's even more true than I knew. When you have a new staff, they're growing pains, and when it seems so easy to us sitting home, and some of the stuff we're saying is absolutely true. Like when we're just acting like fans, just watching, we're all watching, right?
Right.
They see it too. But you said it, and Cosell said it. Jason Avant said it. You coach to the limitations of your players. I hate accepting that. I get it. It pisses me to bleep off. I don't. We all want to blame people. I understand that, but I just want to see better football that the coaches have control of.
Yeah,
and the linebackers play better.
We've seen what happens when you don't try to coach to the limitations of your players. It was us last year wondering why Jim Schwartz would only play one safety deep when his cornerbacks were Kevon Webster or Kevon Seymour. And who's the other guy that they were running out there? You know,
Jaquette was out there.
Jaquette. And we would say, why wouldn't you play more cover 2 to protect these guys, right? And here's Jonathan Gannon playing more cover 2, doing things now more cover 1. I mean, you have to you have to put players in position to succeed. And I think we've seen in both cases, Schwartz and Gannon not be able to do that. And at some point, it becomes also about the people who are giving you the talent and what they've given you. That's all. You know, it's just there's the connective tissue between what you want to do and what
of defense, right?
Exactly.
Well, that's the best line I got. I can't say who the coach was from another team, but he explained his offensive philosophy, and he doesn't believe the guy likes the pass game because you got to match the run game and the pass game because it just doesn't work if you're so pass happy. You know, it's funny. The Bucs, before we get out of here, the Bucs talk about how great Tom Brady's been with the Bucs, and he's been incredible. Mm-hmm. People forget Leonard Fournette has revived his career. He's one of the leading rushers in the league right now. You wouldn't know that, but I was kind of surprised to hear that. But there is a way you match, before we get out of here, defense with your personnel, and they got to get the pass rush going, which you didn't really talk enough about. And Hargrave's got to get going again. What I don't know, we're going to check in this for Friday show. I promise we're going to do this. I want to know what's going on with Hargrave and why he's not getting there. What has happened to him? Because he's a stud. Is it the techniques? Is it obviously the quarterback Herbert got rid of the ball very quickly. You know,
he's also getting double team more. You can see that.
Okay, is he? Okay. Yeah. Yep. But I know that Herbert, I was told 175 to 2.25. He was getting the ball out of his hands.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes 175 to 2 seconds, which is really hard to beat that. That's when if you don't press, you're going to lose.
Yeah.
So we'll get more on that, but I just want to I really want to find out what's going on with Hargrave. That was my breakout play of the year, and he's not breaking out right now. He was, so I wonder what the hell's going on with him.
All right, there you go. That'll do it for this edition of Inside the Birds, the leading podcast in Eagles Intel. Big thanks, as always, to our producer, Hunter Brody. Check out his work on Twitter. It's at Broads81. Of course, his website, broadsmedia.com, and his YouTube channel is called Sports Talk with Broads. And, of course, as always, we thank you for flying with us inside the Birds.